We just got a big new Quest 3 update that finally unlocks some long-awaited features, as well as some insane VR game news that you don't want to miss. So let's dive right into it. Now firstly, this brand new update is also known as the Horizon OS version 2.4. And if for whatever reason you don't have it yet, then make sure to manually check your updates from within your settings. And the first thing that came with this is that Meta has now finally made it possible for you to rearrange your apps in your home menu, or even creating some simple folders to group your games together. And until now, pressing on any application from within here would only give you a limited menu pop-up that would let you do things such as deleting your application or hiding it altogether. But moving on, another nice fix with this update is that whenever now something crashes on your headset, then your Quest 3 is now capable of automatically restoring your previous sessions. For example, if you're working and your browser closes unexpectedly because of a bug, then you would normally have to restart the entire thing and lose all the progress that you've made. But thanks to this, your open panels will now directly reappear in their original positions when you relaunch whatever application you were using. So that is pretty damn nice. But by far the biggest feature that came with this update is the new possibility to use your hand tracking to move around in your virtual home without needing a controller at all. And to quickly explain this, until now, you would have always needed those thumbsticks on your controllers to even be able to move your avatar in any sort of way inside your virtual space. And while hand tracking has definitely been a great alternative in a lot of situations, you were sadly always stuck in the same position that you originally found yourself in. But now, that is completely a thing of the past, because when you now quickly tap your thumb on your index finger, you will open up the so-called teleport arc. And with it, you can point to wherever you want to go and tap your index finger once more to instantly move towards it. But that isn't all, because if you swipe with your thumb on top of your index finger to either the left or the right, then you can also start to turn your position in your space without having to move at all. And as a little secret, you can also quickly swipe forward and backwards to move smaller steps at once without having to teleport longer distances. And this can honestly be a game changer, especially for those people who prefer using hand tracking instead of their controllers. But if this feature doesn't seem to unlock for you at all, even though with clearly tapping your thumb on your index finger, then the reason behind it might be caused by the quick action menu. Since if you hold your thumb and index finger together, it will then open up this little menu, letting you do things such as muting your microphone or starting a recording. So, if you want to make use of the teleport function, then go into your settings and disable this first, and then restart your headset. And after that, you should be able to finally see the teleportation arc. But besides all these great new features, this VR update also came with some sad news, and that came from none other than the closure of the VR veteran studio known as VRelity. And you might already know this developer team from their popular VR games such as Creed Rise to Glory or their biggest latest release known as Alien Rogue Incursion. However, the shutdown of the studio also means that the previously announced sequel to the popular Alien Rogue Incursion game is not gonna happen anymore at all. And they weren't the only ones, because Zuckerberg himself has also been shutting down some of Meta's own first-party studios, meaning that some unannounced games such as the Batman Arkham Shadows sequel, as well as the anticipated Harry Potter VR game that was supposed to be made by Skydance, are all not happening any longer. And that is not even mentioning the closure of the social VR platforms such as Rec Room and Meta's own Horizon Worlds. But luckily though, not all is doom and gloom, because we also had some awesome VR game news as well. However, before we get into that, let's first have a quick word from the company that made this video possible. Because none other than Cat VR, who are known for creating VR treadmills that look like they come straight out of Ready Player One, are once again taking virtual reality to the next level. Because while we are normally limited by the boundary system inside our VR experiences, it is Cat VR that has created these VR treadmills that let you run and jump without any limitation. And since their most recent version, which is known as the C2 Plus Enhanced, is compatible with every VR headset that you can think of, it is also often considered as the dream upgrade for any VR user. And they even go so far that it has things like haptic feedback built into it, as well as a vehicle hub, which will make it feel even more realistic when you're racing on a track or flying through the sky. And as a cherry on top, you can also use the code VRelity for a whopping $130 off on your entire purchase. So for those who are interested, I'll leave a link in the description below. And that gets us to the VR game news. And starting it off is the release that is right around the corner for RoboQuest VR. Now this is a brand new roguelike first-person shooter that takes its own combat to the next level. And in it, you will be stepping into the metallic boots of a robotic guardian while diving headfirst in its fast-paced battles. But what makes it mainly stand out is of course its vibrant cel-shaded graphics that really pop on the Quest 3 screen. And on top of that, they also announced that a co-op mode is in the making if you want to try and survive as long as possible together with your friends. And next up, we had a big update for the VR rhythm game known as Beat the Beats. And if you don't know this one yet, then this is probably best described as boxing meets Beat Saber, because in here, you'll be breaking blocks with precise timing while listening to some great tunes. Now, of course, besides just throwing punches, you will also be dodging and blocking in here too, making this overall a pretty great experience if you want to get a proper VR workout. But the cool thing is that besides its 45 built-in tracks, they have now also announced a level editor, which means that you can start to create your own maps and songs from the ground up. And this could give it some huge potential for user-created levels if you somehow have already finished over nearly 100 ones that are already available. Although, do keep in mind that this level editor for now has only been announced to work with the Steam Workshop. And next up, the VR extraction dungeon crawler known as Reef has out of nowhere been cancelled after being months in open beta. Now, originally, Reef was supposed to be the big upcoming VR title from Atlas Studio, who are also known for the successful virtual reality game named Township Tale. So after the glowing success of their first game, they started to work on their next project, which was Reef, and that also seemed to show a lot of promise with its gameplay, since this was supposed to be a unique dungeon crawler that would let you fight through some gruesome monsters with your friends, but with the special twist that you could also get ambushed by some other players in here. And with all their alpha testing behind, and even multiple rounds of beta testing, it seemed that the development was nearly finished, with it even being supposed to launch in 2026. But then, out of nowhere, they have announced that they ceased development and that they won't be releasing it at all. But moving on, we did luckily also have some positive VR game news, which was the announcement of the sequel known as Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. And yes, while the title might not sound too serious, the original PC VR experience is actually one of the highest rated Steam VR games of all time. And now, the devs have announced a sequel that isn't only coming to PC, but also to the Quest 3 and Quest 3S headsets. And in here, you can expect a bunch of hot dog based enemies that you'll have to take out in its endlessly generated levels, while also using some of the best physics based combat that you have in VR. Although, besides the roguelike aspects of it, the studio also mentioned that you can expect a sandbox mode in here too. So if you haven't tried out the original, because it was only available on Steam, then definitely give its sequel a shot when it comes to the Quest headsets. And talking about sequels, is also the big rise in popularity to the game known as Gorn 2. And this is a crazy gladiator simulator that will have you wield bigger and weirder weapons with each challenger that passes. But its recent spike in the overall player base was mainly because of the many new content updates that have been added over time. And these go from additional challenge modes to a bunch of crazy new objects, as well as a load of overall improvements. So if you like a challenge, or if you just want to blow off some steam, then it might be worth it to dive back into this one. But that is not all. Because besides all these paid games, there is also a way to unlock a massive library of completely free VR games that aren't even available on the official Quest store page. So click on the video that you see on screen right now to make sure you don't miss out on that. And of course, stay awesome.